What's going on YouTube? This is Tommy again, and in this video I'm going to show you two things. One, swapping stock brake pads for these high performance F80 brake pads. I'm going to be going to the track and I need to put them on. And two, jacking up the car and swapping the wheels. It's simple and easy, but I know a lot of you guys get a kick out of it, so let me show you how I do it. So at least the new BMWs have two main jacking points, one under here and one under there. You cannot use a regular jack. You need these adapters. They're kind of like hockey puck adapters with some rectangular cutouts. I got them on Amazon, and they're fairly cheap, but you kind of need these if you wanna do this job in a safe manner. So, and since we're not going to be doing anything too crazy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this jack stand up over here, try to hang it up, and I'm going to support the floor with the front with the jack. I'm not getting under the car, so this should be fairly sufficient. I know some of you will disagree, but it's really it's no big deal. I don't know if you noticed, but I never loosened up my my wheels. Why? Because I'm using this Ingersoll wrench. I can never pronounce it. Impact wrench, and with that you really don't need to do it. You just go in, undo your wheels, and it takes a few seconds per side. Let me show you. Since the new brake pads that you're putting in are slightly thicker, you need to push the pistons in. In order for you to be able to do that quite easily, even with your fingers, all you have to do is just loosen up the brake reservoir cap. You don't have to take it off. You don't want any dust getting in, but just loosen it up. And when you loosen up, that's going to allow you to kind of, if your fingers are, if you've got strong fingers, you can push it in to guide these guys in. Two things to notice here. The first thing is that I've got spacers on. I've got spacers to make the car look more aggressive, but since I'm going to the track, I'm going to be taking these off so I can have stock track width, and I don't want the rocks to be kicking on my rear side of the car. When the wheels poke out, all the pebbles kind of hit the sides, so you get a lot more scratches. I'm trying to avoid that. So for the track, I'm going to be taking these spacers off and putting the stock bolt on. One thing I kind of learned the hard way is when I first saw it, I was confused. I didn't know what to do, but now it's actually super easy. F80, F82, F83 have brake sensors, front and back. There's one on this side, and there's one on the rear passenger side. And what they do is it's basically it's a sensor that if when the pad gets to a certain depth, it breaks the wire connection, and you get a light at the dash saying that, hey, you need to replace your brakes soon. So for people who track their cars, you really don't need that sensor because you're going to be going through pads quite a lot. So what you can do is you can take the sensor out and kind of zip tie it to the side. I'm going to show you how to do that. The first thing what I need to do is I need to take these brake pads out, and the way you do it is, you see the little pins here? You have a pin here and a pin here. You get a little punch and you hammer those pins out. That's going to allow this bracket to come out, and you'll be able to easily slide your pads out. And then basically what you do is you kind of press it in. Yeah. Press the spring in. Slide the pin out. Press the spring in again. slide the pin out, and this guy comes out. Now, you want to be able to slide your brake pads out, and this is what the OEM brake pads look like. Essentially, they're in a pretty good condition, if you notice, and they have these little weights on top, but they just won't cut it at the track. So I'm going to be swapping on my performance pads. What I'm doing is I'm tracing the brake sensor, and I'm going to pop it out with the pad, and then all you have to do is just see it's attached to your pad like this. All you have to do is just pry it out. This is the pad that was on the inside, and then this is the sensor. This is essentially the sensor that you want to zip tie somewhere to the side, which is what I'm going to be doing. When you're zip tying it, you see that little metal piece. You don't want to lose it. You want to make sure you tape it in first, then you zip tie it. That way, if you ever want to go back to reusing these sensors, you don't have to buy new ones. You can just reuse these, and they'll be good to go. What I did was I zip tied it sort of under the brake line. I zip tied it back to the brake sensor line, and then I wrapped the end in electric tape, and I also zip tied it back here. I made sure it's not touching any body panels and whatnot, so now I can clip these guys back in there. Another trick, what I not a trick, but sort of a best practice is this is the old brake pad, and this is the new brake pad. You can see where the pistons are hitting it. So what you want to do is you want to apply the brake grease, or rather the lubricant, in the same spots. So that way you get minimal squeaking, and you know exactly where the pistons are hitting it. All right, the next part is very simple. Now that we've got the new pads greased, what I kind of do sometimes is I take the old pads, push them in, and I push the pistons in. I think if I do it on both sides, yeah, all right, they come out on this side. So that means I can take this pad, stick it in there. It's nice and tight. Let's see if this one comes in. Alright, so I'm using my fingers now to put the pistons in. And almost there. Sorry if I'm blocking the camera. A little bit more. Piston goes in. I think we should be fine now. There we go. Sorry. It looks a bit awkward because I'm trying to maneuver around the camera. So now all we have to do is make sure there are no clearance issues. I guess not. We take the pins from the back, and drive them. Drive them through. Now, the brake pads have two holes. They have sort of the inner holes and the outer hole. The outer holes are for these brake weights that we're not going to be reusing. The inner holes is what you want to drive the pin through. So you're driving the pin through. You put this guy in, the clip, and there you go, you're done. You want to do the same thing up top. Drive the pin in. So now what I can do is I can tap it from the back. And there you have it. This is how you install the front brake pads. I'm going to be taking that spacer out and putting the wheels back on. There you have it. It's also a good practice to clean any of the surface rust you see on the hub. All there's for us left to do is put the wheel back on and see what it looks like. One thing to notice with these wheels, I put aluminum tape over the wheel weights so they don't drop at the track. A lot of times when you heat up the brakes and then you stop, the heat from the brake actually loosens up the glue and they fall off. So what you want to do is you want to reinforce it with some extra tape. Okay, I'm gonna admit to something, a little change of plans right now. I cannot live without spacers. This just doesn't look right to me. It looks like a Toyota Corolla. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm quickly gonna take the wheel off and put the spacer back on, and then I'll move over to the back. I put the spacers back on. The rear is actually very similar. It's quite easier. Actually, there's no brake sensor on this side. There's a brake sensor on the other side, so that should be nice and easy. Let's just take the wheel off. So again, just like on the other side, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hammer the pins out. They're gonna fall off to the back. Take the pads in, and then put the new ones in. Really, really straightforward. Just make sure you don't scratch the paint on the caliper. Come on, there we go. Pin out. And once you take the first pin out, the second one comes up pretty easy. And just like before, you swap you take the tiny pads out. I know I complained in my video about the tiny pads, which is one tiny piston in the back, made by Brembo. We'll take these bad boys out, and we're gonna put the new ones in. You kind of want to follow the impressions of the piston and put some schmear on it. All right. So just like in the front, just use your fingers really to push the piston in. Trust me, you can do it. All right. And if not the piston, then you can use the pad to put it in. To push it in, rather. And you see it slides right in. Then you can push the other one in, and this one should slide right in. See? It's fairly easy. You don't need special tools to do that. And just like before, you want to use the inner holes, not the outer holes. The outer holes are for the brake weights, which you do not want with these. Can't make it in the hole. There we go. All right. Slides in. Make sure you're in the right hole. And then you apply some pressure at the bottom and guide the other pins in. Then you take your trusted hammer. You want it to come out about this much. There you have it. This is it. So with all the videos and preparation and putting the spacers back on, it took me just a couple of minutes to swap the brake pads. That's the beauty of these cars and these calipers. They're very easy to work on. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put the wheel back on, the 18-incher, and I'm gonna move over to the other side. I'm gonna fast forward the other side since you don't need to see the detail, but you get the idea. I'm going to use my torque wrench to tighten it to 105 pounds-feet of torque. After a couple of miles of driving, I'm going to readjust it again to make sure, or recheck it again to make sure nothing's got looser. I gotta say, the car doesn't look the same with these wheels on. It looks kind of cool, but not as cool as with the 20s. Although the 20s I think are too big for me anyway, so I'm going to be going to 19s next season. But the back looks pretty nice and mean. I'm so glad I kept the spacers. I would not be able to drive without the spacers. All right, let me do the front. I'll let you guys watch, but in fast forward motion, and I'll see you at the end. This is all you need to do to swap the wheels and swap the brake pads. The last thing you have to remember to do is tighten that brake fluid reservoir cap, put the plastics back on, and then we're going to go ahead and take it for a test drive to bed the brake pads in. Bedding your brake pads is quite easy actually. What you have to do is take a couple of fast runs, let's say 60, 70, and then slow down to about 20, 15. You never come to a complete stop because you don't want to cook your brakes onto, cook your pads onto the rotor. About doing these things is the fact that it gets me nauseous. All the accelerating and braking really gets into your stomach and your head. So I hate bedding brake pads, but it's a necessary evil that you all have to do. Woo! Feels like my brain is going to the front of my head. There you have it. This was it. This is how you easily, safely, and efficiently swap the wheels, swap the brake pads, and break the brake pads. I hope this video was helpful. Leave your comments or questions in the comment section below. I have a pipeline of videos I wanted to make, including the next one being my trip to Virginia International Raceway. I'm going to be documenting the 7.5-hour drive. The track experience, my comparison to my previous race car, which was a 2004 Volvo S60R, manual transmission, all-wheel drive, 300 and change horsepower. So I'm going to be doing a little comparison to that. Stay tuned. Winter is coming. I've got winter tires, so we're going to have some fun in the winter. So if you like that video, hit the subscribe button, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks again for watching.